Hey there, today I'm doing the DCP tag.
There ain't nothing gonna stop me now, 'cause I'm almost there.
Obviously, I'm not on the Disney College program, I'm on the Disney Cultural Exchange program. It's the exact same thing, except for I come from Canada, where it's much colder. Let's just get right into it. So how did you hear about the program? My Disney obsession, not gonna lie, hit me a little bit late. Probably hit around the time when my dad surprised us with the vacation to Disney World. I had already been to Disneyland twice at this point, but I'd never been to Disney World. So he kind of let me take charge of all the planning. He bought me one of those burn bomb guides to Disney World for that year, which was really awesome. So I went through the whole thing probably like 12 different times, picking each restaurant I wanted to go to, all the rides that I just had to ride, the shows I had to see. That's about when it started. And then I don't know if it was before going or after coming back that I was like, oh my gosh, it's a Disney park. This is magic. I feel like crying every time I walk down the road. How do I work here? How do I like practically live here on a regular basis? So I found out about the program, the DCP program, but then found out it was only for Americans, which I am not. Kind of forgot about it for a while. I was like, I should probably live the rest of my life and things. I mean, it's a long time in between when I was 15 and now. And one day I was procrastinating, as one does, and was just looking through the Disney Careers website, and I found out about the Disney Cultural Exchange program. So I went and looked into the program, and so I saw that there was an option for Canadians to go. And so there's two options for Canadians. There's the Disney Cultural Exchange program, which is just over the course of the summer. Then there's the Cultural Representative program. The Cultural Representative program is for a whole year, but it only applies to people who work at each of the pavilions in Epcot. I looked into it and it didn't work the first summer. In between my first and second year, didn't work the second summer either. My third summer, I spent a month in Africa instead. And then yeah, and so this finally, after I've already graduated, was the only summer that I could actually do the program and have it work into my schedule. So question 2, what was the interview process like? It should be noted that, again, I am doing the Disney Cultural Exchange program, not the Disney College program, not the same thing, different interview process. So we go and we apply online, and then I actually had to fly to a different city to do my in-person interview after my resume was accepted. I had to go do that, and then you wait for even longer, and then they send you an acceptance. There's no phone interview for the Canadians. It's not a thing. Except for I think if you're an alumni, then they might do a phone interview. I am not an alumni. No phone interview for me. I flew to Vancouver and stayed with my grandparents, who I was lucky they live in the city where one of the interviews was taking place. Took the train downtown really early in the morning. Had a homeless guy give me health advice, which was interesting. And then there's this whole moment of we're all waiting to start because there's probably 35 of us in this room all waiting to start doing this interview process. We're all standing in a circle awkwardly wondering where we go from here. Eventually everyone warmed up and then everybody couldn't stop talking. Kind of felt bad for our interviewers because then they had to wrangle all of us Disney lovers who all of a sudden had found a circle of geeks to hang out with. Eventually we went and we all got signed in, they took our ID, and then we sat and we watched a presentation, and they gave us a whole bunch of information about Disney World. There's a presentation that's going that's flashing things. Then they play all these videos, something about Disney videos make me cry, especially the commercials, something about them. I'm just waterworks all the time. And then they go and they ask you a whole bunch of trivia questions to kind of like ease the tension in the room. So this is your opportunity to snag some Disney swag. I personally won a pop socket, one of those things for the back of your phone, by knowing that there was a monorail. And then other people won things for other questions. So then after the whole presentation, they essentially go and say, hey, everybody can leave now. So there was 2 interviewers, and we actually did one-on-one interviews with one of the interviewers. If you weren't in the first interview slot, you had roughly an hour to 2 hours to kill. So I went and I sat in the hotel lobby and called my mom because I was freaking out because I do that. Then I came back, so people who were just leaving, it's like, how did that go? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Oh no, I'm sure you did fine. Everything was great. Those kinds of things. It's actually quite a circle of support, which was really amazing. And the people who were coming in, then it was like, oh, you're gonna be fine. It's only these kinds of questions. Prepare for this kind of thing. Everyone was really supportive, which was really awesome. And so for my interview slot, I was the second last person to get to talk. Second last, which is incredibly nerve-wracking. Ugh. Well, you sit there staring at the person across from you, and every time that the interviewer leaves the room, you're like, but no, sometimes they just want tea. I've always found that I do well in interviews. I find that People generally like to talk to me, and so therefore I'm good at this. So then you're called in. You go and you sit down with your interviewer and you're talking to them and they ask you questions. They asked a lot about me personally, which was interesting, like who I am as a person, which wasn't what I was expecting. I was like, how are you going to handle this situation? And kind of threw me off guard a little bit. To be like, this is me as a person, as opposed to, yes, I can get the things you need to get done. Overall, it went really well. Had my interviewer laughing a lot, so that was always a good thing. One thing to note is they do go and they ask you at the end, do you have any other questions? I paused for so long. Got a little bit uncomfortable because I was racking my brain trying to think of a question, because you should technically always have a question to ask, but I really didn't have any. But obviously it all worked out because I'm going. Had to do a month of very stressful waiting where you check your email probably 6 times a day because you're just so stressed that you must know what you're doing this summer. So question 3, where was I when I found out? I was in bed with the time change and everything, because I am from the West Coast. Put me several hours out of sync with the East Coast, which is where they're sending all the emails from. So technically my email came at 6 in the morning. I didn't realize my email came in until probably 9 in the morning. So I was late to the game, and then all of a sudden my phone's blowing up with every notification ever from Facebook and new Facebook groups and roommate surveys and everything else. Do you accept your offer? Of course I accept my offer. Duh, it's Disney World. Question 4, what were your preferred roles and what is your role? When I set up my roles initially, I said that my first option was character attendant. My second option was attractions, and my third option was merchandise. I put character attendant first because I knew that that one was the most competitive, and it was something that I really wanted to do, but figured if it wasn't my first choice, it was going to completely take me out of the running. Then I picked attractions because I think it's so great to be a part of an attraction. Like, when you're a cast member, you are a part of the attraction, and there's such a culture with that. Like, I think about in particular attractions like the Haunted Mansion and how spooky you have to be and things like that. I really wanted to be a part of that environment. And then I picked merchandise because I got lots of retail experience. Too much retail experience. So those were my 3 options when I listed them online. We got to the interview and they're like, hey, so just so you all know, there is no character attendant spots. To which I was like, let's think of our new 3 options. Then she went and she listed them. One of the ones that she listed very high was costuming. And so I was like, oh yeah, sure, costuming would be fun. I'm good with behind the scenes kind of thing. I don't need to talk to people all day. It's not my jam. So I was like, okay, well, we'll reshuffle some things, and yeah. So then in the interview, what I said my top 3 was attractions was my first one, costuming was my second, and then merchandise was my third. Attractions because I still wanted to be a part of the culture. Costuming because I think it's really interesting to get to see the behind the scenes of how everything works. I don't need to be in the spotlight all the time. I don't need a ton of guest interaction. I'm kind of independent, and so being able to do things on my own works well for me. And then merchandise again, because I have so much retail experience. So much. Why? And so my role is, drumroll please, costuming, which was not what I was expecting, to be honest. I kind of figured I'd end up in merchandise. Not mad about it, not upset about it, just not what I expected. Question 5, have you found your roommates? Well, this comes with a story time. So I found 5 lovely women to be living with this summer. So they kind of gave us a heads up email like, hey, by the way, dorms is going to open on Monday. To which my response was, great, awesome. I got to final on Monday morning. Woo. So at 7 a.m. we all got an email that said, hey, your dorms registration is open and you can link with 0 other participants. 0. To which everyone freaked out. And was like, what? No. What do you mean 0? No, we must be able to pick humans. We've picked our humans already. What do you mean 0? And I feel so bad for all the admin things that like we had access to emails for. I don't know why one person gave us her number. That was a mistake. But pretty much everyone in the program was like panicking and like sending all of the emails to try to figure out if this was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. We are able to link with 0 people. So that we don't get to pick any of our roommates at all. We don't get to do roomie gifts. There were all these things that I was really excited about that now I don't get to do because we don't get to pick our roommates, which is sad, but I'll get over it. I mean, I still get to go work in Disney World. I'm sad that I don't get the opportunity to live with the 5 other girls that I had been planning on living with, but I am still excited to be moving in with other people and getting to know them. Question 6, what am I going to miss while I'm on the program? Let's be honest. I'm gonna miss sleep because I have heard that the hours that costuming works are a little bit crazy, and in addition to that, when I'm not working, I'm probably gonna want to be in the parks as much as possible, and that means the sleep is gonna suffer Do I care? No. It's gonna be magic, and I'm so excited to go. And I will be sleep deprived for 3 months if that's what it takes. I'm very excited to go. Part of the thing is like I don't feel like I'm gonna miss a whole lot of things because I already live away from home for university, so I'm not gonna miss my family or my pets or anything like that because I've already been living away from them for 8 months. I'm very excited to go home for 1 week and sleep in my big bed. There's not a whole lot of things that I think I'm gonna miss. Question 7. What is your favorite park? My favorite park is Hollywood Studios, which is not popular right now because there's only like 4 rides. But I really love the feel of Sunset Boulevard and the 1940s feel of things. I've always really loved that. And so getting to walk through those kinds of immersive experiences are always so great. But my second favorite park is obviously Magic Kingdom. There's just so much Disney magic there. I've always been a princess girl. I love environments is something I found that I've really loved. Just like all these little details that work into this tiny like thing that like nobody else notices. And like there's so many people who are like, yes, that's a rock. And you're like, no, but it's the rock. And like people just don't get that. Question number 8. What's the first thing I'm gonna do when I get there? The first thing I'm gonna do is probably check into our hotel. Me and 4 other girls are getting there a day early and we're staying at Caribbean Beach for 1 night, which will be really fun. And then we're all planning to go to Disney Springs for dinner that night. So we get our first little taste of Disney before we even start the program, which I cannot wait for. But when it comes to being in the parks, it's kind of a tradition that as soon as you get your blue ID, you go to Magic Kingdom and you watch the Happily Ever fireworks. And I watch them. I'm probably gonna cry. It makes me emotional. There's something about the music and the lights and fireworks just make me emotional. It's just how it is. Question number 9. What is the number 1 thing on your bucket list? I'm gonna do a whole separate video about my bucket list. It's gonna take a long time. There's a lot of things on it. But the number 1 thing on my bucket list is that I want to ride every single ride. We're there for quite an extensive period of time, so like there's time to do it, but that's probably the biggest thing on my bucket list. And finally, question 10. What is one thing that I'm planning to take away from the program? The only thing I'm really planning to take away is really amazing memories and friendships. That's what I'm hoping to take away from the program. Realistically, what I'm going to be taking away from the program, a crap ton of Disney merchandise. So much. I got a thing for ears. It's going to be a problem. Thank you so much for sticking through this video and getting to know a little bit more about me and my Disney college program. I'd really love to get to know more about you. So tell me one thing that is unexpected about you in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and there will be more videos coming, and just keep dreaming.
Hey, it's okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, come to think of it, I gotta go.
I'm not planning to take money away because realistically, you make it from the mouse and the mouse gets it back.